Good afternoon. On behalf of our President, Paul Mears III, and our Chairman, Ken Robinson, from Dr. Phillips, my name is Steve Hogan. I'm the CEO of Florida Citrus Sports. And thanks for spending a little bit of time with us today in this virtual Chalk Talk. So excited to have Desmond with us. And want to thank CenterState Bank for their support of this event and the neighborhood as well, very much through these difficult times. Also want to welcome all of our members, season ticket partners, sponsors, and really the residents in the West Lakes community that are likely on the call with us today, our family around Camping World Stadium. I know we're all fighting through a difficult time right now, but like any good team, I think we're all just going to need to pick each other up, and we're going to be better for this on the other side. I'm supremely confident of that. 7 years ago, seems like just yesterday, we had this ambition and committed our organization to finding a way that Camping World Stadium could literally become a beating heart in the neighborhoods that surround Camping World Stadium, the underserved, underinvested neighborhoods, at-risk community, really. And wouldn't it be cool if the events that happened at Camping World Stadium literally could be connected on a vascular level with the residents that live there? The more success that sports had, the more success these families and their children and the next generation would have. It's a big idea, and I was so excited and proud to be a part of it. Thankfully, ran into a lot of smart people and committed residents and leaders in the neighborhood that said, together, I think we can do this. And here we are 7 years later with $100 million of capital investments in the neighborhood surrounding Camping World Stadium. So proud of that, to think 2 affordable housing developments now, soon to open 120 senior affordable housing units there. Brand new Lake Lorna Dune Park, $9 million renovation to open this August is the new timing for that. A Boys and Girls Club, which the Boys and Girls folks would tell you is to be the nicest potentially in the country. $9 million Boys and Girls Club just a couple of blocks away. A health and wellness facility soon to break ground, and a new early learning center that today is currently caring for some of those kids from frontline workers living literally in the stadium neighborhoods, which have become affectionately known as West Lakes. At times like these, now especially at times like these, what we learned in reading Toxic Charity from Dr. Lupton is what the at-risk need most, the poor need most, is a caring and connected neighbor. And I'm thankful for the folks on this call today, our executive committee and partners, that they're committed. Even though it's difficult for all of us, we're all facing uncertain times, financial stress, but what the poor need most is a caring and connected neighbor. And we at Florida Citrus Sports, Camping World Stadium, we're committed to being that caring, connected neighbor. And at a later date, we'll share with you so many exciting things that we're doing in support of the residents who need us most right now of any other time. But today, so excited that we're joined by Desmond Howard, who he feels at least like family to all of us, right? He's a partner with Lee Corso on College GameDay, who's got a 30-year relationship with us here in Orlando, and annually, as you know, gets together with us for a steak each year, and we have a lot of fun with that. Played at Michigan, although never in our bowl game, unfortunately for us. But we've had a lot of Michigan appearances, and we feel at least connected in that way. And really what he offers to the college football community, so important to not only what the college football community is today, not only as a player, a leader, and really a voice on the weekends for all of us, but what we're going through right now. I think, we need a few minutes of Desmond Howard to feel good and something to look forward to. So I want to thank Desmond for taking a few minutes today to be with us. ESPN is an important partner. We co-own a college football kickoff game together that this year enjoyed Florida and Miami in week 0. Of course, we air the Blue Florida Classic with FAMU and BCU every year, and that's on ESPN Air. Both of our bowl games are on ESPN Air. The Under Armour All-Star Game, and so many more things. So, Desmond, you feel like family. And Paul Kennedy, who's a legend in his own right on the broadcasting community, and a Howard Palmer winner here at Florida Citrus Sports, which is our highest honor, and I want to thank him for all he's doing. And lastly, I just want to say, Desmond, I know your heart for the community is evident. I know you have a special place for it with the Boys and Girls Clubs, and we're so excited that we're going to open one soon in the neighborhood next to the stadium. But today, we're forwarding out $30 gift credits through Grubhub to every teacher in the neighborhood West Lakes community schools around the stadium that need it the most. They're really underappreciated. They're there for our kids right now during this difficult time, and to send every single one of them, Jones High School, Legends Academy, Orange Center Elementary, those credits so that they can enjoy a meal on us in your name, Desmond, means a lot. So thank you for taking a few minutes to do this, and I look forward to the talk. So Paul, Desmond, take it from here.
Well,
hey everybody, how you doing?
Hey, I'm just delighted, Desmond. We figured out how to unmute.
You and me both.
It's wonderful to be with you, number 21. Absolutely. I hope you, Rebecca, your family are healthy and happy in South Florida.
Yes, we are. Thank you very much. And I have my my IT department, aka my kids, on standby in case I could not unmute the mic and my my camera. So all's well. But everyone's good. Thank you for asking. Hope the same with you and yours too.
Yeah. Thank you. Desmond, of course, owns two of the greatest bookends in all of football, a Heisman Trophy from his legendary years in Ann Arbor at the University of Michigan, and he was the most valuable player in Super Bowl 31 when his kickoff return for a touchdown sparked the Packers past the New England Patriots. But as we begin, I must also point out that this is his last day in his 40s. For tomorrow, Desmond, you celebrate now with all of us in this Jock Talk a landmark birthday in the Howard household. How do you feel about this?
It's a big one. I feel great about it. I get a chance to experience it with my family. I feel good. I just feel really good, really blessed too. So yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I can't wait to join the club.
I'm there. Desmond, we all feel like we know you from your Emmy Award-winning work on ESPN's College Football Game Day, which is a magnificent show, might be the best on television, especially in its genre. With you, Reese Davis, Lee Corso, our dear friend, Kirk Herbstreit. Why does it work so well? You've been on that show, if I'm right, for 15 years. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. The secret sauce, in my opinion, is the chemistry. I think we all have a great passion for college football. And I think that's obvious and evident to our viewing audience. But the chemistry is wonderful too, because of our passion for the sport and our love. I think that we have so much respect for one another too, and so we're not over there trying to shout down the other guy or anything of that nature. We disagree, but respectfully. But I think what really comes across is, I remember I first joined the show, right? And I was in a production meeting.
All right.
And at this point, Chris Fowler was the host, and it was Chris and Kirk and Coach Corso. And I remember the meeting, and they was talking about something that it seemed like it was minute. It seemed like it wasn't very important, but they must have talked about it for about 45 minutes. And I was like, wow, like these guys, like they really care about their audience's opinions and how they get this information out to their audience, because I just never imagined that they would spend so much time on something that I thought, well, didn't think it was as relevant as they did. But it spoke to me about just how serious they take their craft and the information that they give out to the audience. So I think that's what comes across. We love the sport. We're very passionate about it, but at the same time, we're respectable. I remember back then, Lee Fitting, who's still with ESPN, but now he's in a different role. He's been promoted. Lee Fitting was one of the associate producers, and he said that, guys, I never want this show to feel as though it's scripted. We don't want it to feel like it's scripted. We want our audience to feel like they're eavesdropping in on a conversation amongst some guys. And I think we with that in mind, I think we accomplish that every Saturday. We just try to make it conversational, but at the same time, entertaining.
We have so many members of Florida Citrus Sports on this Chalk Talk presented by CenterState Bank today that have sent in questions to ask you. We'll begin right here with Mike Roach. What campus, and I guess you could include Ann Arbor in the big house, 111,000. What
Yeah.
makes for a great college football game day experience? Mike is joining us from Cleveland, Ohio, your hometown.
Okay, yeah, that's right. And there you go, born and raised in Cleveland. So, okay, Mike. Well, like I love going back to Ann Arbor. That goes without say. But the places that really stick with us, and we've had this conversation, me and my coworkers, are places that are kind of off the grid, off the beaten path, but we never really have been there before. So when we go somewhere like we went to Fargo, North Dakota, for North Dakota State. And I'm telling you, from a production standpoint, it was absolutely just one of the best shows we ever had. The people, they were so grateful and appreciative that we were there. The atmosphere was electric. And then we went to, like, a few years ago, if you guys follow the show, we always got that Washington State Cougar flag flying back there. They got like this crazy streak and how many shows they've appeared in. So anyway, we went to Pullman, Washington, and that was another just crazy atmosphere. The show, because that atmosphere, it lifts our spirits. Because don't forget now, we're on at 9 Eastern, no matter where we are in the country. So that's like 6 a.m. in some places. But you'll never know, because their enthusiasm and their energy, it rubs off on us. Just like coming out for a game, coming down the tunnel, going to the big house. Once I feel that energy from our crowd, it energizes me. Well, the same thing can be said for college game day. So we feel the energy of that crowd, and that Pullman crowd, man, for Washington State that morning was just outstanding. So I love when we go places where we've never been before, because I think that helps to aid us and have a fantastic show.
We have so many executives and people that with ambition watching today are trying to achieve. How do you end up at Michigan? How do you become a Super Bowl MVP? I watched a TED Talk, and I'd recommend it to all of our guests today, on YouTube just a few days ago, that you conducted in February, just a few months ago, at your alma mater. It was outstanding, but you talked about your core lessons of life, the character that you built as a young man in Cleveland who attended St. Joseph's and played for a tough love football coach, and how it shaped your character before Bo Schembechler recruited you. So the essence is, what is Desmond all about?
Wow. Oh, that's a loaded question. I can talk about that this whole session. I guess, let me see. So based on what you were saying, first and foremost, to be able to accomplish the things that I've been able to accomplish in my life, you have to have a certain level of discipline. And I've been very fortunate, very grateful to have parents who instilled discipline in me from an early age. My dad is a guy who, I just follow his lead, and he's been my inspiration. I was able to play for some great coaches who believe in the tough love. I mean, I grew up in the 70s, and back then it was about tough love, and you could discipline kids, but you did it under the umbrella of love, and so you understood why. And so I was very fortunate to be able to play under some great coaches who were disciplinarians, who gave me that foundation. Like I can talk to you about the high school coach I had, Bill Gutbrod, the late great Bill Gutbrod. He was a legendary high school football coach, but he was also a World War II veteran. And he brought that type of military discipline to football, though he never ever spoke about his time in the military or his time in war, but you can tell, just the way he drilled us, that was his background. I had no problem with that. And so then he prepared me for Coach Schembechler, who at that time, he was one of the toughest, roughest in the country in college football.
Probably write a book about Bo. They have been. Multiple guests today have submitted this question. So right off the top, so how does a young man out of Cleveland, Ohio,
Yeah.
that great rivalry between the two border states of Ohio and the maize and blue of Michigan, how does Bo successfully recruit you, and what attracted you to this opportunity of a lifetime?
Yeah, well, growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, I was always aware of the rivalry between Ohio State and Michigan, but I was not a college football fan. Actually, I was a Dallas Cowboys fan. I loved the NFL and lived for Sundays and, of course, Monday Night Football or Howard Cosell, But anyway, so it wasn't like, hey, I grew up a Buckeyes fan, so I should go to Ohio State. That wasn't the case, but I was aware of their rivalry with Michigan because of like the Rose Bowl, which was the granddaddy of them all back then. So my senior year at Cleveland St. Joe's, Coach Earl Bruce, Ohio State's coach at the time, he was fired. And when he was fired, I remember telling my dad, I said, well, Ohio State's off the table. And he said, why? And I said, because, they're bringing in this coach. I think he's from Arizona, somewhere out west. We don't know much about this guy. His name was John Cooper. I said, we don't know much about Coach Cooper. And I don't know, what type of system he's going to bring to Columbus. I don't know what type of personnel he wants. And I was a running back then. So I said, and Dad, I really don't know if I want to be part of a rebuilding program. I said, so Ohio State is off the table. So Paul, I never, ever took even an unofficial visit to Columbus. The first time I stepped foot on their campus was in the maize and blue winged helmet.
So what lesson did you learn from Bo? What is toughness to Bo Schembechler? You're 5'9", can run like the wind.
Yeah.
You have speed.
Yeah.
What did you learn from him, and what did you show him that ends up with the Heisman Trophy in your living room?
Well, I think with Bo, back then, it's pretty much the same now. College coaches, they have relationships with high school coaches. So when you come from certain programs, the college coach, he pretty much knows what he's getting. So I think Cleveland St. Joe's at that time, we were a team that, like my senior year, we were ranked in the top 25 in the nation. So the USA Today,
High school, you and Elvis Gerbaugh, that group of guys.
Exactly. So the USA Today, they have like their top 25 in the country, and we were ranked in the top 25 in that list. So anyway, so Coach Schembechler and Coach Moeller, they kind of knew, what they were getting, what type of kid they were getting. For the most part, that Bill Gutbrod was a strict disciplinarian. He taught the fundamentals very hard, and the very least, you were going to be mentally tough because back then we had what they call 3 a day. So we practiced 3 times a day in full pads. And a coach may get arrested for trying to do that nowadays. So anyway, they knew exactly, as far as the mentality was concerned, what type of player they were going to get. But once I got on campus, things changed for me as far as my position, because I was an All-American tailback in high school. I ran the ball 25 to 30 times a game. And, in my mind, I was the next Tony Dorsett. But when I got to Michigan, we had camp for the freshmen. So the incoming freshmen, they have like 3 days of camp just to get acclimated and used to everything. And the first day of camp, I actually played defensive back because I led the state of Ohio in interceptions my senior year too. I was a starting safety. And the second day I played running back, and the third day I played wide receiver. So Coach Schembechler and Coach Gary Moeller, who at that time was the offensive coordinator, and then Cam Cameron, who was the wideouts coach, they called me in the meeting room and they said, Howard, we think you can help us faster and more effectively at the wideout position. We have 3 upperclassmen, Greg McMurtry, Chris Calloway, and another guy by the name of John Colasar, who are upperclassmen, and they're on their way out. And so we think, for the team, you could probably help us faster and more efficiently at wideout. And so, I was like, okay, tell me that's the best thing for the team, I'll be in a White House meeting tomorrow morning. And it wasn't easy. I had my struggles. I talked about those struggles in my TED Talk, but it was capped off by winning the Heisman. So I think everything worked out well.
The iconic moment for you is against Ohio State with Keith Jackson, microphone, national television, the punt return high and deep in the big house, and you take it the distance and have the presence of mind in the end zone to pose for the Heisman. Sticking it out like this. Have you done, when's the last time you did that at home in front of Rebka and the kids?
They don't let me.
He says, "Hello, Heisman," as you do that.
Yeah. It was the perfect soundtrack for that moment. I mean, the legendary Keith Jackson, man, he was. I mean, who else could have pulled that off? I mean, the timing, the way he held off, he held back, and as I crossed the goal line, I mean, it's just everything was. You couldn't have scripted it better, and it was a huge moment. Who knew that moment would be as big as it has become, though?
You also add to that the robot in Super Bowl 31, don't you? On the
yeah, exactly.
Parcells and the Patriots had scored.
Right.
Super Bowl, you win the MVP. I think it's in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And here you go, and you take it the distance, and you get there. When do you decide I'm going to do the Heisman? I'm going to do the robot when I get to the end zone.
Well, you know, the robot. Well, I mean, I grew up, like I said, in the 70s and 80s, and I was a big, you know, Jackson 5 / the Jacksons / Michael Jackson fan. So, you know, back then they would do like perform Dancing Machine, and then Michael would do the robot. It was like the craziest thing ever. So I always loved that, and so that was just that's why I did that. Like my ode to MJ, because I was such a huge fan. And the pose actually was something that was really, really spontaneous. I just, when I crossed the goal line, I did it. But that robot, you know, I never even imagined that I would have a chance to score because of the way that they were approaching special teams in that game. I mean, Bill Parcells and his special teams, they pretty much did a good job of making sure I was like kicked into the sideline, and they kicked the ball high and short. Like they did a really, really good job most of that game to make sure that they would render our special teams ineffective. I remember the week going into the Super Bowl, Paul, they said the X factor is Desmond Howard and the special teams. Like, this is what the Patriots said. So we knew that they would have a game plan coming into that game to try to eliminate us. But what happened was Curtis Martin had just scored. They had the momentum. They were feeling good about themselves. It was like, okay, they're coming back.
To you.
Yeah. I mean, it was the perfect kick, Paul. It was the perfect kick for the return we had set up. Yeah, it was perfect. So I'm thankful that they did that. Then as I'm going down the field, you know, talk about presence of mind. Like if you look at the Sports Illustrated cover, I'm actually looking up at the Jumbotron as I'm running down the field to make sure no one's close enough to mess me up as I slow down to do the robot.
The Jumbotron to make sure nobody's on your heels.
Absolutely, exactly.
In a Super Bowl, returning a kick with the Patriots chasing you.
That's true, exactly. Yeah.
You can. You're playing there for Mike Holmgren, fantastic coach. Brett Favre, your quarterback. This is the litany of great coaches that you've played for, and I want to have you couch what they might have in common. Joe Gibbs, Tom Coughlin with the Jaguars, John Gruden, briefly with Oakland, Al Davis's selection, Ray Rhodes, long time in the league, Bobby Ross in Detroit.
Yeah.
In addition, of course, to Bo Schembechler. Eric Schwalbach asks, what characteristic make the best coaches, both collegiately or perhaps in the NFL, if there's some commonality? Everyone's trying to win. Why are some men more effective? And this is a great list for your resume, Desmond, to have played for.
Let me see. I think first and foremost, to be a great coach, I think you have to have a lot of confidence in who you are and what you're trying to accomplish. Meaning, don't jump on the bandwagon of what seems to be hot now, what seems to be the big trend now. You have to have a lot of confidence in yourself and your philosophy and how you approach the game.
Selling yourself to the team. Did they sense the confidence, or they see the confidence in you, or the wisdom in you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Good. So they definitely, yep, that comes across. And I think that, when you have that sort of confidence, and there's a respect level that you warrant and that comes with you no matter where you are, in the office, in the meeting room, in the locker room, on the field. And players, they respect that. When you can have a coach who players respect, like, Coach Schembechler, Coach Holmgren, like, no matter what was going on, like, we had a tremendous respect for those coaches and what they brought to the table. And to be honest with you, you have to make sure that the players believe you have their best interests at heart. Oh. No matter what's going on, they have to believe that you have their best interests at heart. That's what makes it easy for me. That's what made it easy for me.
Do it outside?
Hello?
Oh, look, it says on my screen,
special guest.
Special guest.
Who's
We're
that?
going to have to get to the bottom of this, but apparently a special guest may be joining us momentarily.
Okay.
Desmond, is there a coach there that you would say you learned the most from? A position coach or a head coach? If I throw those names, here's our special guest, Desmond. Can you see him in your screen? And I think the special guest has a question for you. So listen in.
Can they put him on the big screen?
Desmond Howard. Desmond Howard. I would like to know. Is there a special recipe that the great Kalunda could share with us today? man, hey, I saw the ginger soup. I just saw the salad with the blueberries and the grapes. Man, you got anything else? You whipping up anything else for us?
Oh, brother, listen. For parents at home who can't get their kids to eat carrots, I have these special carrot fries with a yogurt garlic sauce that you're going to absolutely love. Oh, yeah, so look out for Kalunda's carrot fries with this yogurt sauce with garlic in it. Outstanding.
But they can only get the recipe if the kids go to Michigan, right?
There you go. Hey, that's a surprise guest of all surprise guests right there. Wow, you guys got some pull. That's my God.
As a Heisman Trophy winner from the University of Michigan, a Michigan legend, and Charles Woodson.
Yeah.
Charles.
Oh, man.
Thank you. Des, I got another question for you. I don't know if anybody's asked this yet, but are we going to have a college season? And if we do, what modifications have they been discussing with the season coming up?
No, that's a good question, C. Wood. No one has asked me that during this Chalk Talk, and I do believe we're going to have a college football season. I really do. I don't know. It might be delayed. We have a couple of more weeks before we hit the target date that they kind of tentatively set to make a good decision, not a firm decision, but to see where we are. So I think they want to make a decision early June. So we got a couple of weeks, and I think that they have some issues out in California. I don't know what they're going to do with the Pac-12. That's a whole nother discussion. Right. But when you start to hear like coaches talk about this, they're talking especially like in the SEC and then James Franklin and the Big Ten, they've made comments like, well, if you have 14 teams and 12 teams can play, then we're going to play. We're not going to penalize the whole conference, whether it's the Big Ten or whether it's the SEC, because 2 teams or 3 teams can't play because they're state. And
so then all of a sudden those 2 or 3 teams are automatically out. No football season for them, and the rest of the conference goes on their schedule.
It depends on their situation with their governor. So if their governor which that puts a lot of political pressure on a governor. Let's just say, you know, you have like, let's say, you know, the governor of Michigan says that.
Or Gavin Newsom in California, because they're talking about with the NFL having games outside of California. That's what you're speaking of.
Absolutely right. And then, so the NFL, and that's a completely different situation, because the college, they have to worry about the issue of if there are no kids on campus, how do you bring these football players on campus to play games? So they have a whole nother, you know, ball of wax that they have to deal with as far as the college football. NFL, they don't have that issue. They just need to figure out where they want to do it, if that's what they're going to do. See what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah. So, so I think, you know, it seems like, hey, even if all of our, you know, teams in our conference can't play, if we have enough, we will have a majority rule vote and we'll still play our season.
Desmond and Charles. Charles, you played 18 years in the league with Oakland and Green Bay. Desmond, 11 years in the league. You both won a Super Bowl with Green Bay. How many times did your careers cross paths professionally? Did you ever play against each other that you recall?
Well, we played on the same team.
We played on the same team in Oakland.
Yeah, so Des came out there to Oakland. I thought I was going to have the punt return job. And all of a sudden they bring in another former Heisman Trophy-winner to take the job from me. So I never got the punt return duty. So I blame Des. I blame Des for me earlier in my career not being allowed to catch the punts, man. So that's my bone to pick with Desmond right there.
Hey, Paul. Hey, he was too important to the defense, man. You talking to a first ballot Hall of Famer right there. We didn't need him back there returning no punts. He was too important to the defense.
That was absolutely. You got to let that angle go. Was he? Many say he was the finest defensive back, and you were there in that generation, which just ended for him a few years ago. Charles Woodson was as good as they came in both college and the National Football League.
Absolutely. Only defensive player to win a Heisman right there. It speaks for itself.
Thank you. You know, I had good guys to look up to. You know, I grew up a Michigan fan, and of course, you know, a lot of greats that came through there. And for me, in high school, I was an offensive player primarily, and switched to defense going to college. So at high school, I grew up watching Desmond, grew up watching Tyrone Wheatley, and I remember Tony Bowles. A lot of people remember that name, but he was a great running back at Michigan.
Yeah.
So I had great guys to look up to, man, and they pushed me. You know, I think anytime you have a young player that looks up to those players before them, they want to live up to that standard. So those guys set the standard for me, and I know for Des, there were guys that were before him that set the standard. So it's always great to have those guys, man, that set the bar high. And you try not to disappoint them. So I tried to do my best there at the University of Michigan, and it turned out pretty well.
Can I ask C. Wood a question right quick?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, listen, my cook, Kalunda, just asked me. He said, listen, for all these nice meals, he needs some nice wine to go with these meals. So if you can send like a case of intercepted wines down to the crib, it'd be greatly appreciated.
Hey, see, I got some real special for you cooking up. So just give me about a good 2.5, 3 weeks. I got something for you, man. Don't even worry about it. I got the great Kalunda in mind, man. Don't worry about
it. You Ohio guys end up at Michigan, end up just the closest of friends. What was the biggest rush for you? What was it like, Charles? I'll ask Desmond this too, playing in Ann Arbor in the Big House, the greatest helmets in college football, that atmosphere, 111. What's that all about? What's that like? What's the adrenaline level?
Well, for me, you know, again, growing up watching, you know, Michigan football games and you know, here in the Big House, it's different when you're actually in the Big House and you actually have the uniform on. You know, I remember my first time running out of the tunnel as a player. Before my first game, and the stadium was full. Of course, I'd been there as a fan, you know, as a recruit, and you're amongst the fans, and you're in the stadium. You know, there's a little bit of a rush because of all the people. But when you run out and you actually have to perform in front of them, my first time running out, I literally lost my breath running out of that stadium, knowing that I was in the greatest arena. I was in the big house in front of 106,000 people wearing amazing blue, a dream come true to play for the University of Michigan, and actually got some playing time. I wasn't a starter my first game, but I ended up getting some time in, and you know, by the second game I was starting, and the rest is history. But there's nothing like that feeling running out of that tunnel in front of 106,000 fans.
Number 2 in maize and blue. Number 21, do you remember your first time out of that tunnel and they're playing Hail to the Victors and you're Go Blue, Desmond, touching the banner? Do you remember that first time, or the first time they got you the ball?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's a similar experience to what Wood just said. I mean, it's breathtaking. You know, you go down that tunnel and it opens up to 100,000+ fans, and you know, you got to cross the field and jump and touch that banner. And I'm one of those guys. I'm like, man, let me get on the outside, make sure no one trips me or anything, something like that. Trying to avoid that embarrassing moment.
Hey, Charles, I know you got to run. You made this special too, buddy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, he did. Thanks for coming on, Wood. Appreciate it.
No problem, man. Anytime I can talk to my guy, man, it's a pleasure for me. So, Des, good to see you, man, and have fun. I know people got a lot of questions to ask. Yes, you guys have a great day.
Thanks, man. Stay safe, man. Best of you and your family too, brother.
For sure. You too.
All right. Thanks.
All right.
The X's and O's is presented by CenterState Bank and the great Charles Woodson. Really, Des might be the finest all-round defensive back history of the NFL, and he's eligible for Canton this year. Can I talk to you about some players now that are just coming into the league? Specifically here in the state of Florida, we have 3 football teams in the NFL. Miami, the Buccaneers with Tom Brady, of course, going there with Bruce Arians, and then in Jacksonville, a new look there. But Tua Tagovailoa, who you saw play many times in many different situations, drafted by the Miami Dolphins. And the debate is, do you play him right away? Do they start him as Russell Wilson did out in Seattle from day one, game one? There's some thought. You make him sit for a year like Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson. What's your inclination right off the top with your experience at both levels and what you believe he might encounter with the Miami Dolphins this year?
Well, Paul, I think first and foremost that Coach Flores is building something really special down here. I mean, he's doing just a tremendous job when you take in consideration the guys who he lost or they traded away and the deals that they made, but they were still able to be not only competitive in games that people thought that they wouldn't be competitive in, but they won more games than people anticipated. That's how come they didn't have the number 1 pick, but the Bengals did. So I think with what they're trying to build here, you know, they're going to be very careful with Tua. And obviously, you know, because of the pandemic, no one had access to Tua, so no one could really evaluate where he is as far as his rehabilitation at this point. Now,
his hip injury that he had.
The hip injury, exactly, because the hip injury. So now that he's drafted by the Dolphins and everything, I think that he's in a position that they can evaluate him. They'll have him on campus, and they'll make the best decision possible as far as when they think he's ready for an NFL game. You don't want to rush a guy with that type of talent because outside of his injuries, there's no doubt about it in anyone's mind who's seen this young man play that he has a tremendous, tremendous upside when it comes to being a star quarterback in NFL. I mean, he has elite throwing abilities. There's no doubt about that. His only knock was the injuries. So they have to be very cautious and very careful and make sure that they're extremely comfortable with where he is as far as his rehab is concerned before they just march him out there and put him on that field.
That he's got to be able to stand up. You have to have help in front of him. They have to have wide receivers and the like, a running game, all the other variables that go into this. What does it take for the game to slow down for a man transitioning from the college scheme to the NFL, Des?
Well, I think the game slows down for you once you understand your position better. So and it's going to come through reps. It's just going to come through reps in practice, reps in preseason, and then game reps. But once you start to understand your position better and you have a greater understanding of the opposition, like what they're trying to do to stop you, whether, you know, if you're an offensive player and what the defense is trying to do with their schemes and everything, or if you're a defensive player, okay, how is this offense trying to attack me? Once you have a greater understanding of what your opponents are trying to do to you, then I think that's when the game starts to slow down for anyone on the field.
I thought you were a transformational player. Back to Bo for a moment when you arrived there, because you were the first wide receiver, if I'm correct, to lead the Big Ten in scoring. Did you change the way that Bo played the game, or the way that he attacked? Was the game going from a ground game, you know, 3 yards in a cloud of AstroTurf?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, Bo's throwing the ball. What's going on with Bo? He's throwing the ball to death. But you were the first guy in the history of the Big Ten to, as a wide receiver, to lead him in scoring.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because, and Charles would tell you this too, like one of the greatest players ever played at Michigan that everyone used to think about anytime you thought about the University of Michigan was a wide receiver by the name of Anthony Carter, who wore number 1. So even though, they had great running backs, they had Jamie Morris and Butch Woolfolk and all these other running backs, you know, Gerard Bunch, like, the guy who you thought of when you thought Michigan football was AC, number 1, Anthony Carter. And but because of what he did when he got his opportunities. And so I don't think the philosophy changed that greatly when I started to play wide receiver for Michigan, but it was just a matter of what I did when I got my opportunities to make a play. I was able to make a play. So, I mean, we still had great running backs. We were a run-first offense. And, it's not like we went to the spread and they started to feature number 21. Like, everything that I accomplished, my Heisman season was accomplished within the confines of our offense. We didn't do anything, like, different or start to really, I'll tell you one thing, though, the 4th and 1 call against Notre Dame, which was at that point now Gary Moeller was the head coach. Gary Moeller probably wanted to throw the ball a little bit more than Coach Schembechler, but he still understood that we buttered our bread with our running game. But the 4th and 1 call against Notre Dame, Gary has said, listen, we're going to throw the ball. We're going to throw the ball, going to throw a hitch. And, if it's covered, then we have 2 running plays that we can check to. So he told Gerback, because there was a timeout. I mean, he called a timeout, called us to the sideline, and, spoke to me, spoke to Elvis. He told the team, this is what we're going to do. And, before we exited to line up, hey, look it in, Desmond, look it in.
It's amazing how you can play 11 years in the NFL, but guys remember college plays almost every single snap that they played across 3 and 4 years. The only exception in the last 15 years to win the national championship, a team not from the SEC or the ACC, was Ohio State. Michigan last won it when Charles was there in 97, shared it with Nebraska. Shannon Pranger asked, what do you think is the biggest key for your alma mater, Michigan, becoming a national championship contender once again?
I think the biggest key is they have to hit on the quarterback. I think that's the first key. I mean, when you look at the teams who have participated, like in the college football playoff, I mean, most of these guys, they've had, like superstar quarterbacks. You look at the quarterback from Joe Burrow from LSU, who won the Heisman. You look at the quarterback from Clemson, Trevor Lawrence.
He's back this year, right? Trevor's back.
Yeah, he's coming back. Same thing with the guy. When you talk about Ohio State, look at their quarterback.
Justin Fields. Justin Fields at Ohio State.
Fields, exactly. So, in my opinion, the thing that these programs have in common, look at Alabama when Tua was there. I mean, special quarterback. So I believe first and foremost, that they have to hit on the quarterback.
What is the biggest evolution in college football now that we will see this fall as LSU tries to repeat? And they say it's Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, 1, 2, 3, maybe Wisconsin, if that means anything here in the month of May. But what is the biggest evolution going into 2020 since perhaps you finished playing the year that you won the Heisman Trophy in 91?
Well, I mean, I think there's been a lot as far as from 91 to what we are now, 2020. Huge change, huge difference in everything as far as college football is concerned. Like, look at offenses. When I played, you probably a pro set was like, two running backs, two wide outs, and a tight end. Nowadays, it's,
Under center all the time.
Yeah, absolutely right. Under center the whole time. Now the game is going to shotgun primarily, 3 and 4 wide receiver sets primarily, one back sets. So I mean, just that alone lets you know if the offense is doing that, then that dictates what the defense has to do. What they have to now put a lot of nickel coverages on the field, or a lot of hybrids, meaning guys who can play different positions, but who play both at a high level, like a strong safety / linebacker type, or a guy like an Isaiah Simmons who played at Clemson, who now was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. Hybrids like that are starting to become more prominent in the game too. So it's just, there's a lot of changes offensively and defensively, but it starts with the personnel, and then it goes from there.
Desmond, thank you for your time. I'm going to go start the TiVo right now to make sure I record the first college football game day. I don't want to miss it. That's right around the corner.
Yes, sir. Thanks for your support. Appreciate that.
Say hello to Lee, and of course Reese Davis, who was an Alabama Crimson Tide letterman back in the day. Kirk, you had on your TED Talk, you had this quote, and I would suggest to everybody watching today that you surf the net and find on YouTube his TED Talk, which you did extemporaneously. You maybe rehearsed it. There was no teleprompter there.
Right.
And you're on your feet for 15 minutes. It was great. But you said a society, as we are, drowning in information, but starving for wisdom. And I took those words to heart, and hopefully we come through all of the challenges we have right now, healthier and wiser.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much.
Number 21, of course, in his Maize and Blues days at the University of Michigan, his alma mater, winner of the Heisman Trophy, Super Bowl 31 MVP, a member of the College Football Hall of Fame, and a Michigan legend in Desmond Howard with us as presented by CenterState Bank. Have a great day, Desmond. Thanks so much, my friend.
You too. Thank you very much. Stay safe.